Yes, so we're here. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're happy to welcome you to this webinar devoted to the investment opportunities in Kazakhstan in changing economic conditions, which are organized by CERBA Kazakhstan chapter in partnership with KAZAKH INVEST. So before we start with the webinar, just a few words about our association and rules. So my name is Taskin Koshman. I'm the Regional Director of CERBA Kazakhstan and KCBC Coordinator, which is Canada-Kazakhstan Business Council. And CERBA is an independent non-for-profit organization that promotes bilateral trade and investment between Canada and Eurasia, with its membership-based association that represents more than 140 corporates and individuals. And we have 9 offices in Canada and Eurasia. So just a few words about rules. All attendees' videos will be automatically turned off and audio muted. If you have questions, please submit it to a Q&A box. Provide us with your name, last name, company name before you submit your questions. And if you have private questions, you can reach out to the speakers directly. Their contact details are currently available on your screen and copied to the chat box. So today's webinar will be recorded and available on CERBA YouTube channel. All the materials will be also provided after the webinar. And if you have any other questions or concerns, you can reach me out. And now I would like to introduce my colleague, Mr. Gilles Breton, CERBA National Chairman, who kindly agreed to moderate this webinar, and he will introduce our speakers. Please, Gilles.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, good day to all. I mean, I'm delighted to be with you this morning. These are excellent opportunities. What I would like to say, of course, that first I wish you all and your families good health in the circumstances. I think this is the most important thing. The second thing that I would like to say, of course, is that in the post-pandemic world, there would be circumstances where people might say that, there will be less trade, less international trade and less international investment. But I think by your attendance to this seminar today, webinar today, you are confirming that you are also of the view that, in fact, it will be even more important to diversify international trade and to diversify international investment. So I think what we see is that although there will be a lot of policy debates in the next little while, there will be an important discussion about how to improve our record in terms of favoring international investment and international trade. The second thing, of course, also is that the large number of participants reminds me that we're doing, through these circumstances to this webinar, reaching out to more people than we ever before. So this is one of the largest attended webinar that we've ever organized. So thank you very much for your participation. I would also like to emphasize that, as just Taskin was just alluding, CERBA works every day, so to speak, every working day. So we do this webinar, but we'll also be willing to recruit new members, but also to sort of follow up on the questions and suggestions that you may have through this webinar. So that's about it for my introductory remarks. I will now ask Norman Storm to say a few words on behalf of the Kazakhstan chapter of CERBA. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for attending this webinar, and a special thanks to KAZAKH INVEST and CERBA, all of its management, all of the people that work so hard in these organizations and help to make this whole thing, this whole webinar possible today. Also, thank you to all the participants for joining us and taking your valuable time. Some people early in the morning, some people late at night. We really appreciate your attendance today. My name is Norman Storm. I'm the Managing Director of Condor Petroleum in Kazakhstan, as well as the Chairman of the CERBA Kazakhstan chapter. I just wanted to say a few words on the relationship between Canada and Kazakhstan. It's a long relationship going back to the very start of independence, and I think there's a history that's worth following up. I mean, we know, of course, about the resource sector. We know about oil and gas. We know about mining. We know about agriculture, but there's also very many other opportunities available in Kazakhstan, and I think it behooves us as Canadians and also as Kazakhs to continue to work together to basically bring these two great countries that share so many common goals and common geographies and sort of business possibilities to help make that happen. And I just wanted to say that obviously we know about some of the early successes in the oil and gas sector with hurricane hydrocarbons, with Nations Energy. We also know about agriculture with the farm machinery trade. One of the first successes, I think, in the bilateral cooperation between Kazakhstan and Canada was actually in research and development related to agriculture, specifically with the development of wheat that would work well in Kazakhstan given the similar climates and growing conditions. So there's been a long cooperation in the scientific sector as well as, of course, in the business sector between the companies. I think the other thing that's worth mentioning is where Kazakhstan is located. It's obviously sitting, it's the largest totally landlocked country, but that doesn't mean there's no opportunities in the region. It sits next to some of the world's largest markets. If we look at Kazakhstan as part of the Eurasian Economic Union, which has 173 million members. It's also borders on China with 1.4 billion people population. And of course, Central Asia itself, which is a market of 73 million people. So it's sitting close to a lot of markets. It has a lot to offer. And I think we've seen the government itself continuing to try and develop the potential that it has. There's been numerous special economic zones created throughout the country, and they're situated in regions with a focus on certain sectors. But I think our colleagues at Kazakh Invest will probably speak in more detail on this. But certainly, all sectors of the economy are covered, and these special economic zones offer incentives as far as providing land, utilities, road services, and things like that, which saves the potential investor quite a bit of money in the setup of their businesses, but also obviously there's some large tax incentives. Just to talk a little bit about the company that I work for, Condor Petroleum. We've been working in Kazakhstan now for over 14 years, and we've been a significant investor in the economy with more than $200 million invested to date. And we find Kazakhstan to be, we're very happy with the progress and development of the country itself from the early years to now, and we see continued growth and opportunities in the country. So we're very happy with that. And obviously, in closing, just to say a few words about some of our experiences there, I think the strengths of Kazakhstan are largely associated with the people of Kazakhstan. The desire and the motivation of the people to learn more, to do a good job, to further their training and their educations. These are all positive experiences that we've had during the time that we've been in the country. They're very open to mentorship, to learning from working with companies and having a chance to have international experience and on the job experiences. So there's not so many negative things to say about the country, obviously. If I want to start nitpicking, I could say the one comment that we make often is just the overall level of the bureaucracy. Sometimes it can be a bit painful and slow to get approvals, and you seem to be waiting sometimes for things to happen. But this is really one of the few things. I mean, we have in conclusion, we have a tried and true. We have a legal system that works. We have excellent infrastructure, roads, railways, power grids, and as I said earlier, a very good location and a motivated government who really would like to work with foreigners, has a good track record of working with foreigners, and is really open and hospitable to people and the country to welcoming foreign direct investment into the country. So that's, Gilles, that's what I'll hand it over to you now. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Norman. So basically, thank you for that very useful and interesting presentation. Our first formal speaker is Mr. Zhandos. Okay, oh, yes, start my video. Sorry. Okay, this is taking a second. So our first speaker will be the advisor to the chairman of KAZAKH INVEST, Mr. Zhandos Temirgali. So I will ask him to start his presentation right away.
Thank you, Mr. Breton. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. The positive outcome during these challenging times is that we're able to gather from all over the world. It is great to have you all today. Special thanks to Canada Eurasia Business Association, the co-organizer of this event, that provided the venue for this webinar. It is an outstanding resource, outstanding association that promotes trade and investment across the Atlantic. So today's presentation includes an introduction to a current state of affairs and the investment opportunities of Kazakhstan in various sectors. Let me see 1 second. Since we have received many questions regarding the present day situation in Kazakhstan, I will start with this topic. As you well know, the global pandemics affected the entire world economy. Here, it's important to realize that this crisis has an exogenic nature. In other words, was caused by the outside factor, namely the coronavirus. Unlike in a 2008 crisis that revealed deep defects of the financial system, currently we are faced with a sharp decline in consumer demand, hopefully for a short-term period. Kazakhstan, like the rest of the world, is experiencing similar ideal storm. However, the economy is doing relatively well so far. If we take such parameter as short-term economic indicator, you can observe that the decline is actually not significant. In this graph, you can see the results of January-April 2020 in comparison with the same indexes in 2019. The previous year was pretty positive for the Kazakh economy. And in 2020, the year has inherited the same dynamic pace. But the lockdown has surely affected it temporarily. So the Ministry of National Economy has considered the 6 basic industries such as agriculture, heavy industrial production, construction, trade and transport, storage, as well as communication. Out of these industries, you can see a certain decline in transport, trade, and construction. And as we can definitely tell, this was caused by imposing the restrictions on trading centers, restaurants, transportation. Comparing to the rest of the world, this decrease is mild. And here, we must highlight the measures taken by the government in order to mitigate the effects of the crisis. Well, first of all, the country introduced an early lockdown on March 16th. This has helped to flatten the epidemic's curve. So far, we have over 7,200 people infected and only 35 deaths, so it's less than 0.5%. These figures are significantly lower than in most of the countries of a similar size. Secondly, the government has allocated 3.5 trillion Kazakhstan tenge from the National Reserve, which is around $8.2 billion, funding the various measures in order to fight the outcomes of the pandemics. Thirdly, more than 700,000 companies and individual entrepreneurs have received tax incentives during the lockdown, which helped them to save about $2.4 billion. The social assistance included deferral of payments of loans and utilities that was granted to 1.6 billion citizens. Moreover, 4,250,000 citizens received a direct financial assistance. I personally do believe in helicopter money. Another aspect that we should strive to broader and higher this parameter. In general, the amount of funds aimed at supporting citizens and business amounted to almost 6 trillion tenge, or $14 billion. And just 2 days ago, the government approved comprehensive plans to restore economic growth until the end of this year, which includes tax incentives, expansion of loans issuance, measures to develop infrastructure, domestic production, entrepreneurship support, and employment preservation. Therefore, every cloud has a silver lining, and this crisis allowed to rethink and reallocate the government spending and injecting the substantial funds to the economy. I think that is a silver lining. As a whole, the pandemics, together with the decline of oil prices, reinvents the diversification of Kazakh economy towards the high added value industries. And this is facilitated by the existing investment climate and infrastructure that we have managed to build during the last decades. As you know, Kazakhstan is the 9th largest country in the world, the size of Western Europe or 4 states like Texas, situated in the middle of the Eurasian region, between Europe, China, Middle East, and other surrounding regions. In Central Asia, the economy of Kazakhstan is larger than all other economies combined. Kazakhstan has direct access to the markets of more than 500 million consumers, including the countries of Central Asia, Western China, and the countries of Caspian Basin. One of the key advantages of Kazakhstan is its favorable geographic position between Europe and Asia, which predetermines its significant transport and logistic potential. Strategically, it links the large and fast-growing markets of China and Southeast Asia to the Middle East and Western Europe. So it's about 65% of the world's GDP by automobile and railroads, as well as the ports of the Caspian Sea. Thanks to the existing multiple transcontinental roads, Kazakhstan is one of the most important participants of the Belt and Road Initiative, called sometimes the buckle of the belt. It is important to note that transcontinental transportation allows transferring goods from China to Europe 3 to 4 times faster. So it's 15 days by railroads or 12 days by highway. Then by sea roads, where it's approximately 45 to 60 days. That significantly decreases the outcomes of the higher cost, but the opportunity cost is much higher. Kazakhstan pays great attention to increasing volumes of transit traffic between China and European Union. One of the infrastructure moments on the border with China, a modern dry port has been built, functioning under special economic zone Horgos East Gate. The dry port is connected to Western Europe, Western China highway, modern railway service, and the port of infrastructure of the Caspian Sea form a single large logistics hub that efficiently distributes the cargo flow today in the middle of Eurasia. So Kazakhstan government has made good steps in order to improve infrastructure. There is a governmental program, Nurluzhol, where 300,000 kilometers of freeways built and 1.4 thousand kilometers of new railway are commissioned. So Kazakhstan is a major transit hub between Europe and Asia, East and the West. And sometimes we call it like we are in the middle of 2 oceans. Since we are a landlocked country, we are between the 2 oceans of Europe and Asia. So why Kazakhstan? The investors should consider before entering Kazakhstan, you need to make sure that you can source a skilled and educated labor force locally. And Kazakhstan has the highest literacy rate in the region, and most citizens are bilingual. Almost all schools teach English as the main foreign language. There are notable scholarship programs like Bolshak, where thousands of local students are having the chance to study abroad. And additionally, the bringing in the workforce from the outside of Kazakhstan is also straightforward within the investment incentives provided for foreign professionals. For business and tourism purposes, there is a visa-free regime for citizens of OECD and in general 65 countries. So that brings me to the next point, investors' right protection. You have to make sure that your rights are protected and you're given the utmost priority by the government. The Foreign Investors Council, chaired by the President of the Republic of Kazakhstan, is the highest body. Then we have Coordination Council, chaired by the Prime Minister, which is a very important body in order to introduce various measures in order to improve an investment climate and solve specific questions of the investment projects. Additionally, the launch of the court within Astana International Financial Center and International Arbitration Center are important in order to preserve investors' rights. In order to quickly resolve problematic issues of investors, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Kazakhstan performs the functions of the Investment Ombudsman. And the Office of Investment Ombudsman is run by our organization, KAZAKH INVEST, and we are the body who receives all the official claims and other documentation. So in accordance with the global best practices in attracting investment, we have 13 special economic zones that provide established infrastructure and a wide range of investment incentives. The special economic zones are located all over Kazakhstan, including the major cities, Nur-Sultan, Almaty, and Shymkent. We also have 24 industrial zones. In Kazakhstan, the system of state support for investors is multi-level and includes various industry benefits, as well as investment contract that enables tax exemptions. I should also note that in Kazakhstan, there are many opportunities for project funding. The country has more than 20 funds with governmental participation, including Kazakhstan Investment Development Fund with equity financial tools, KIDF, international financial institutions like EBRD, ADB, and World Bank, surely, and some other large European, Asian, and North American financial institutions successfully cooperate with Kazakhstan. In addition, as I've mentioned before, Astana International Financial Center, AFC, was launched in Kazakhstan in 2018. Its goal is to create two world-class financial services center in the Central Asian region. Remarkably, the residents of AFC are governed by the English common law, and unprecedented fact for the region. According to the Global Financial Centers Index, AFC holds the first place in the region of Eastern Europe and Central Asia. And the government of Kazakhstan provides comprehensive support for investment projects that include financial incentives, such as various subsidies, exemption from corporate income tax, VAT, land tax, and property tax, as well as non-financial incentives, such as free plot of land and infrastructure. I believe my colleague Alida Tuyebekova will be more detailed on that. So that brings me to the next point, the investment climate of Kazakhstan. According to the World Bank, since gaining independence in 1991, Kazakhstan has rapidly transitioned from lower middle income to upper middle income country status in less than 2 decades by 2006. Since 2002, Kazakhstan's GDP per capita has raised 6-fold significantly improving the country's performance in the World Bank's indicator of shared prosperity. Therefore, Kazakhstan now counts among the top 30 countries in the world in the prestigious World Bank's Doing Business Index. According to the World Bank's report that has been just recently issued, Kazakhstan is ranked 25th out of 190 countries after climbing 11 places in just 2 years. In addition, Kazakhstan comes fourth in the world by enforcing contracts and seventh in the world for protecting minority investors. By the way, it takes only 1 day to start business in Kazakhstan and 3 days to register a property. The combination of all the main factors is expressed in continuous improvement of investment climate. And as far as the results, since 1991, Kazakhstan has attracted over 340 billion of foreign direct investments. The top 10 countries investors are Netherlands, United States, Switzerland, China, France, Russia, Belgium, Great Britain, Turkey, and Japan. As you can see on this graph, the total FDI in Kazakhstan since 2015. And surely we should name some of the multinational investors in Kazakhstan. And on this slide, you can see some of the largest, not everyone, but some of the largest investors in Kazakhstan from all over the world in different sectors such as oil and gas, mining, agriculture, machinery, financial sector, and others. We should say about our organization a few words. Kazakh Invest is the unified investment operator of the Republic of Kazakhstan. We provide a full range of services to support investment projects from the initiative to the implementation stage. In Kazakhstan, we formed a three-level system of investor support, including Kazakhstan state overseas institutions, embassies, consulates, etc., ministries, local executive bodies. At all these levels, Kazakh Invest plays an active role managing the network of representatives abroad and in all regions of Kazakhstan. We have foreign representatives in China, in the United States, in Singapore, Netherlands, and other countries. In addition, we work closely with local business and associations. The main directions of our activities are, firstly, the investment promotion, attracting new investors into priority sectors of economy, sourcing and targeting of new investors, preparation of relevant projects and investment proposals, conducting comprehensive negotiations with potential investors at specialized events like this one. Second, providing a full range of services to support investment projects at all stages. In particular, we assist in partner selection, localization, obtaining permits, and financing. Third, improving the investment climate and promoting the business image of Kazakhstan internationally. Fourth, continuous service support of potential and existing investors. We provide legal consultation on obtaining public services and incentives, as well as aftercare support. So during today's challenging times, it is critically important to ensure maximum efforts in order to help projects succeed. We believe that public institutions and investment climate that have been formed in Kazakhstan over the past decades will ensure a stable long-term result and mitigate the effects of the crisis. Moreover, Kazakhstan has natural investment advantages, such as our geostrategic location, transit and logistic potential, rich resource base, international trade and investment agreements, and access to the world's major markets. Kazakh Invest constantly analyzes the investment opportunities of Kazakhstan, identifies potential niches and projects attractive to investors. Today, we're ready to offer specific projects in various sectors, together with our full support to the investors. In particular, Kazakh Invest has prepared more than 100 investment proposals in such sectors as agribusiness, mining, metallurgy, petrochemical industry, mechanical engineering, tourism, and other sectors. The system of state support for investors is multi-level and includes various industry benefits that we will discuss later. So the first one goes the petrochemical industry. As you well know, Kazakhstan is a major energy supplier on the world market. Last year, we produced about 32 billion tons of oil equivalent, most of them for exports. On this slide, you can see the newest as well as the potential projects in petrochemical industry, such as production of polyethylene, polypropylene, methanol, lubricants, and other projects all over the country. And among them, I would like to especially highlight the following ones. Methanol olefins project by West Gasoil in a special economic zone Morport Aktau seaport, and base oil production by Hill Corporation in Turkestan region, and urea production, fertilizer production by Kazazot in Mangistau region. Regarding all this project, you can contact us directly and we could share information with you. Next is a big one, opportunities in mining machinery sector. On the left side of the slide, you can see the statistics of Kazakhstan imports provided by OECD, comparing the year of 2000 and the year of 2017. We can see a substantial growth, almost 2 times in machinery produce exports. The important aspect besides export opportunities, we have a large internal market, which associated with oil and gas industry, mining sector, and the general consumer demand. In 2019, Kazakhstan imported 23 billion of machinery production. We're constantly analyzing the investment opportunities and recommend the following directions for localization: electrical equipment, oil and gas equipment, automotive goods. In total, we have 38 products that can be successfully localized, including radio navigation equipment, batteries, converters, inductors, extruders, railway locomotives, vacuum pumps, and other products. As you well know, Kazakhstan is also resource rich. Almost all of the chemical elements of the periodic table can be found in Kazakhstan soil. To make this fact more concrete, 90% of the rare earth metals found in a modern smartphone can be mined in Kazakhstan. If compared with world reserves, Kazakhstan ranks first in terms of global reserves of chrome ores, second in terms of uranium and silver, third confirmed reserves of lead and manganese ores, fourth for confirmed reserves of zinc, fifth in terms of proven reserves of iron ore. And it is important to note that within the last 20 years, Kazakhstan has attracted over $80 billion in this industry. The important step was adoption of subsoil use code. Effective in 2018, Kazakhstan transferred from a contractual regime to a licensing regime for solid minerals, except for uranium. So this code is based on the Western Australian model. The purpose has been to boost geological exploration and remove administrative burdens for subsoil users. These measures allowed Kazakhstan to become the most attractive jurisdiction in Asia based on its investment attractiveness rating. According to the Fraser Institute annual survey of companies. So Kazakhstan is one of the leading countries in Asia. So the next slide is dedicated to the opportunities in mining sector. As you can see, there are 40 niche projects, almost $10 billion worth combined. And there are various deposits all over Kazakhstan. And by contacting Kazakh Invest, we could obtain more detailed information on all these potential projects. What is more, the World Bank estimates that there are over 5,000 unexplored deposits still present in Kazakhstan, valued over $46 trillion. I can't even imagine this sum. So I would just like to highlight a couple of them. The first one is a Tokhtar gold deposit. The extraction of iron ore in Kostanay region. The main prerequisites of this project is growth of the demand in gold industry, in the market shortage of gold supply, and cost of production is low in at this location due to the availability of cheap raw materials with estimated gold reserves of 1,160 tons. And the next project is construction of cathode copper plant. The main advantages of this project are the project has a margin unique to Kazakhstan, established and proven technology, short loan repayment period, minimal currency risk, since the contracts are in United States dollars mainly. Great demand for pure cathode copper on the market, and a good industry experience of the company that initiated this project. So please definitely contact us on this project if you're interested. The next one is agribusiness, one of the key industries of Kazakhstan economy. Agriculture and food production industry is one of the strategic sectors of Kazakhstan economy. It has tremendous potential for further growth. The World Bank characterized Kazakhstan as a breadbasket of Eurasia. The key factors of investment attractiveness of this sector is that the total area of arable land in Kazakhstan, more than 200 million hectares, and 25 million hectares of land available for irrigation. And then we have access to the world's major markets, and we have intergovernmental treaties with China, with European Union in order to export production. And the government support, 25% of capital expenditures could be considered for these sectors. And Kazakhstan has a skilled workforce and has significant social impact, since about 40% of the population lives in the rural areas. And here we can highlight the following directions. Since we have to be specific in this industry, Kazakh Invest has conducted assessment, and we consider the following subsectors to be the most attractive in terms of investments. So it's oil seeds, processing, cereal processing, dairy, meat, and I would say fruits and vegetables, greenhouse projects. Next one is the very important industry is ICT. In Kazakhstan, we have realized a long time ago that education is critically important. Physical manufacturing is outnumbered by the information economy and the tech giants. When I hear that Netflix is now larger than ExxonMobil, we could understand that information and technology is now changing the game. That brings us to this industry of digitalization, and the government has invested heavily into transport and logistics, but also in digital transformation. We have broadband internet, cheap and available 4G networks, and modern infrastructure. And very importantly, we have governmental programs such as Digital Kazakhstan, under which 32 billion Kazakhstan tenge was allocated for this year. And we have many companies from the public sector such as Astana Hub, Zerde, for startup projects and digitalization projects. And we also have KazPost, which is the very innovative company that delivers parcels by drones in rural areas. And surely the e-gov, the electronic government introduction, was very successful. And many public services are delivered by this platform, starting the birth certificates and the business permits and many other permits and official documents. As you know, Kazakhstan is a large country. We have vast opportunities in tourism as well, and we have many projects that are located all over Kazakhstan. And here I would like to highlight Turgen All-Season Mountain Resort, which is a landmark project since it could be developed in summer, in winter. We have lots of attractions over there and beautiful climate, and situated within the closest proximity to Almaty region. And this project has full government support, driven by Kazakh Tourism National Company. So please contact us if you are interested in tourism sector. We have many projects, including the Turgen project. So I hope this presentation today has given you some understanding on the most attractive industries of Kazakhstan as a country, as the investment environment and business opportunities. I will provide you my contacts, and we will keep, we'll be close to negotiate all the potential deals and other prospects of cooperation. Thank you very much for your attention, and see you in Kazakhstan.
Thank you very much for that. Now our next speaker will be, hold on a second, Aliya Salimzhuarova from KAZAKH INVEST as well. So Aliya, your turn.
So it's a great pleasure to have you today with us. I'm Aliya Salimzhuarova, and I'm responsible for power sector at KAZAKH INVEST. And today I want to discuss with you its current situation and investment opportunities. I would be glad to hear your questions afterwards, as it is important to have your feedback. So now let me switch on to my PPT. Power system of the Republic of Kazakhstan traditionally divided into 3 zones, which are northern, southern, and western zones. The total installed capacity as of January 2020 is 22.9 gigawatt, and available capacity is 19.3 gigawatt. In accordance with the data provided by Kazakhstan Electricity Grid Operator Company, as per 1st of January, energy production reached more than 106 billion of kilowatt hour, while energy consumption was at a level more than 105 billion kilowatt hours. In 2019, the main demand for electricity in the Republic of Kazakhstan was covered by traditional thermal power station, which accounted for 81% of the total generation in the country. Hydroelectric power stations in the country in 2019 accounted for 9%, and gas turbine power plants provided almost 9% of the total electricity generation. Now I would suggest discuss the changes that happened in our legislation in the period of 2019-2020. First, starting from January 1st, 2019, the capacity market was introduced in Kazakhstan. The first auction was held on December 5th, 2018. So a single buyer, so-called financial settlement center, purchased services to maintain the readiness of electric power and provides centralized services to ensure that the readiness of electric power to bear the load. Consumers pay for the services to ensure that to ensure that electric power is ready to carry the load and at the same average price for all. Thus, the capacity market will allow distributing expenses evenly among all consumers of the country. The feed-in tariff, according to the last auction held in November 2019, was at the level of 590,000 tenge per 1 megawatt, or 1,415 USD. According to forecasts of power and capacity balance for 2020-2025, there is a significant electricity surplus in a northern zone, which covers the electricity shortage in the south zone. In addition, there is a slight surplus in western zone as well. So what are the perspectives for further development of power sector? First of all, it's a modernization of generating equipment of existing station. There is a significant depreciation of generating equipment of existing station. Therefore, it is important to develop measures for modernization of equipment and heat supply system in the cities. The average age of power plants equipment in Kazakhstan at the end of 2019 was almost 33 years. Over the previous 5 years, it has been increased for 3 years. Currently, we are suggesting developing a mechanism for increasing the rate of return for energy producing companies. And we discussing currently the rate equal to 12%. Second is to develop the maneuver capacity to cover peak loads and the balancing of electricity. Currently, Ministry of Energy is at the stage of legislation amendment, and as soon as it would be approved, a gradual development of maneuver capacity is. Third, the development of energy efficiency and energy saving programs. Thermal power plants have a very high consumption of electricity and heat for their own needs. And this greatly affects the cost of electricity and heat. Therefore, we see the investment potential at the area of technology transfer in the field of energy efficiency and energy saving. And of course, there is a great potential for development of renewable energy sources in Kazakhstan. There is a concept for Kazakhstan's transition to a green economy that was approved in 2013. So it suggests the following indicators of renewable energy sources development. We would like to have 3% in 2020, 6% in 2025, and 10% in 2030. To mention, renewable energy sources mechanism went through rapid changes, which was accompanied by a significant improvement of the legislative framework. In the period of 2014-2017, country had fixed tariff, which were replaced by the auction bidding mechanism, with the introduction of auctions with ready-made project documentation. It happened just recently in November 2019, last year. By the end of 2019, there were 90 renewable energy facilities in the country. Today is more than 97. And by the end of 2020, the number of renewable energy facilities will reach more than 100. The total installed capacity of renewable energy facilities is already more than 1 gigawatt. It should be noted that to date, more than 400 billion of investment have been attracted to the renewable energy sector. It is planned to pay about 81 billion of tenge of taxes from renewable energy, and 975 permanent jobs have been created. To mention, through 2018-2019, 138 companies from 12 countries participated in the auction. Kazakhstan has great potential for development of renewable energy sources, and you see it on the slide. So why investors should participate in renewable energy sources auctions? What are the reasons? Mainly, it is a state support which, among other things, ensures the conclusion of a long-term contract for the purchase of electricity for 15 years, as well as the provision of investment preferences. So, power purchase agreement concluded with the auction winner for a period of 15 years from the date of commissioning of the renewable energy facility at the auction price with annual tariff indexation after a year of operation of the station. The current formula is following the exchange rate of the national currency to convertible currencies by 70% and to the consumer price index by 30%. This formula aimed at the reduction the risk of investors when the exchange rate of national currency changes. Moreover, the auction winner is awarded the priority dispatch and exemption from payment for services of electric grid companies. Recently, renewable energy sector was included in the list of priority activities, which entitles company implementing projects in the field of renewable energy almost all types of preferences, including tax funds. So the package of preferences provided includes, first of all, exemption from custom duties. Second, it's a state-in-kind grants. And of course, third, which is the majorest and the most important, is tax preferences for creation of new power plant, CPN for 10 years and land tax for 10 years and property tax for 8 years. Also, I would like to note that a relatively new direction for our country is the disposal of solid household waste with generation of electricity, or so-called waste to energy. Currently, the legislative framework for the development of this mechanism is being formed. In turn, our company actively working to find international technologies acceptable to Kazakhstan for the implementation of waste to energy, and we are looking for a reliable investment partner for the project in this industry. The aim of the project is to construct up to 6 waste to energy plants in the main cities as Nur-Sultan, Shymkent, Almaty, Taras, Atyrau, and Aktobe for municipal solid waste incineration with electricity generation. Total annual capacity of plants is up to approximately 1.3 million tons of waste. It is a new project for our country and for the region as a whole. And it would help, we believe that it would help us to construct a kind of a new concept of waste. So to ensure the investment attractiveness of the sector, the state is considering favorable amendments to legislation, which is going to be completed by September 2020. The state will initiate an auction mechanism to select a strategic investor, and the auction winner will sign a 15-year power purchase agreement to supply the electricity generation from waste to the grid at a special so-called green feed-in tariff. The Ministry of Ecology will set an upper tariff value, and the auction participants will submit bids based on their proposed tariffs. To mention, the state will also ensure a stable supply of municipal solid waste to the plants, which is the most important thing because you always need to have waste to generate electricity. So that was a very short overview about the power sector of Kazakh Invest. Thank you for your attention. We'll be glad to hear your comments or questions. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. Hold on a second. We're just trying to, thank you very much, Aliya. So the questions are coming through right now on the Q&A list. So we'll get to the questions later on. Right now, we will pass to the next presentation, which is from Alida Tuyebekova from KAZAKH INVEST as well. So please, Alida, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to make my presentation here. Just a second. Hello. Could you please confirm that everyone can see me and everyone can hear me? Hello.
Yes, I can. The moderator can see you. I can't answer for all, but I think if I can see and hear you, I would suspect that
yes, because you know, before some people were complaining as to the image and the sound of the presentation. That's why I'm worrying, but I can see everyone, and I also saw all presentation very clearly, and it was nice. Okay, many thanks for this event, and I'm very happy just to share maybe my experience and just to gain more knowledge from you. And I'm quite sure that in future we will collaborate more closely. And I'm delighted to see my colleagues from the investment promotion agencies, and I'm very happy to hear that quite a lot of people joined to listen and to know more about our companies and interaction between CERBA and KAZAKH INVEST. And I'll try to be very short and interesting for you, and hope in future I will be approached by a lot of Canadian investors after my presentation. So my department is in charge of facilitation and aftercare services. And I know that usually as a focal point, the promotional activities stand at the first place, and aftercare and facilitation services usually at the end, but they're very important for us. For example, and so far as I know that in order to make for investors the way as easy as possible, any investment promotional agency should devote a substantial resources for this area. And as you see, the service support of KAZAKH INVEST is engaged in three services. It's facilitation and aftercare, one-stop shop, and investment ombudsman. When we say facilitation and aftercare services, if we translate from Russian word by word, we can say service support and post-investment, but we're trying to use OECD terminology. So I can say that, so here I'm using facilitation aftercare services. What does it mean? It means that KAZAKH INVEST provides every investor, every person or legal entity which approaches to KAZAKH INVEST for the help with free legal consulting. Then all investors can get visa support. Also, any investor can get help and assistance in interaction with other state agencies. Second one, when we say one-stop shop, I think it's a well-known term which is used as in order to highlight and to emphasize the access to one point of provision of public services. So one-stop shop is provided by KAZAKH INVEST. So if any investor comes to KAZAKH INVEST and is asking for consultancy and public service, and we will provide not with our resources, but we will organize all this process in special public services center or in our regional office. So when I say one-stop shop, I would like to emphasize that we are insisting on investor-tailored approach. So every investor is, every investor's complaint or investor's request is processed individually. And we're helping not only at central level. KAZAKH INVEST is helping at all three levels. I just can explain. We have overseas representatives abroad. We have central office in Nur Sultan, and we have regional representatives who are currently also like advisors to our team, so the governors, regional governors. So whenever you need any help at external level, central level, or regional level, so we are ready to help. And as to the investment ombudsman, currently investment ombudsman in Kazakhstan is Prime Minister Mr. Is our Prime Minister, and we are providing the platform for working investment ombudsman together with the investment committee. What does it mean? It means that we are the first instance to see and to process the complaints of investor, to see and process the request of investor, and we're trying to do to use special dispute prevention mechanism. So we're trying to make it. We're trying just to do our best not to go to the court, but if we cannot help at our level, we're just submitting further the complaint of investor to the Prime Minister office. And as you see from my presentation, for example, last year, we succeeded in this area, I mean, in protection of investors, and we successfully settled 70 complaints. And also we have a hotline service, so it works 24 hours in 3 languages, Kazakh, Russian, and English. And also we are ready just to help in any area. For example, sometimes investor need not only legal advice, sometimes investor needs some expert advice. So in this case, we will organize the interaction between the investor and state agency. And as to the investment incentives, I think I know that the package of investment incentives vary from country to country. So in our country, all and any investment incentives, when I say investment incentives, I mean these state support tools, they're provided only under the investment contract. So if any, so in order to get the investment incentive, the first step is just to apply for the investment incentive, online or offline. And when I say offline, it's just through public service centers. And online, it's through the special website. Thereafter, you wait for the expertise approval, and then if everything is fine, and if the application is approved by all state agencies, special agencies, I will show it further, the investor will get the investment contract. So when we say contract, we shouldn't imply, it doesn't imply that the investor and the state will have negotiations, discussions, and we will do a usual civil contract. No, the investment contract is a public service, and it contains 2 stages: filing an application with the public services center or online, and then get the contract back subject to the approval. And as to the investment incentives, we're happy just to say that we have very good investment incentive packages, and they're provided to investment project and to investment priority project. They're different, and why I put a huge spotlight on the difference between 2 projects, because the investment incentive package is different for the project. Is different. It depends on the project's category. So if the project of an investor falls under the investment project, the investor will be provided with the VAT-free input for the 5 years, with the duty-free input, custom duty-free input, I mean, and state income grant. And as to the state income grant, this meaning is very broad. So it includes buildings, land plots, equipment, maybe some erections, but in fact most investors and the government itself mostly provides the land plots. The most investors apply for the land plots. And as to the VAT-free input, it sounds very attractive, but it's very limited to the special list of items which can be imported under the VAT-free input regime. So VAT-free input doesn't cover all actions or all activities under the doesn't apply to all investment projects, only to those investment projects which are in line with the list of VAT-free input products. And as to the investment priority project, the same. The two preferences are like the previous one are the same. For example, investors under this project can get state income grant too, then duty-free input of equipment, accessories, spare parts, raw materials, but unlike the investment project, these projects this project is granted with the tax preferences, tax incentives. When I say tax incentives, I mean tax holidays from 3 taxes: corporate income tax for 10 years, exemption from land tax for 10 years, and exemption from property tax for 8 years. And they are provided only under the investment priority project. And in order to understand whether your project falls under the investment or investment priority project, you should see the list of priority business activities. Kazakhstan, like any other countries, prioritize business sectors and we can say industries and investors, of course. But first of all, business sectors. All priority business activities are listed in the special governmental decree. So the first step, the investor should check the list of business activities and find the relevant business activity for its project. And the investment priority project is the most attractive, has the most attractive state support tools, but they're available only under the satisfaction of certain conditions. For example, when the investor is applying for tax preference and all these preference for the investment priority project, the investor should prove that the investment volume of his project will be not less than nearly 13 million and $500. It's for, and this triggering amount is set for the setup of new production plants. So if an investor is planning to build something, fabrics, plant, shop, the investment and is asking for the investment incentives, he should prove that the volume of the investments volume will be not less than triggering amount. If the investor doesn't want just to build anything, and if his intention is just to expand and renew the existing production plants, you know, Kazakhstan has a lot of active production plants, and some of them just can be renewed and refurbished, and new production can be started. So if there are no plans just to build and set up something new and you just renew to expand, the investments volume, the investments amount should be not less than nearly $32 million. And so you see, in this case, the investor, in case of expansion, in case of renewal of existing production plants, the investor can get only exemption from corporate income tax for 3 years. So investment incentives are quite different. It depends on the category, first category of the investment project, and depends on the volume. So, and we're here, Kazakh Invest, I mean, state service support department is always ready just to help to consult, to help to file the application and to fill in the application, because the filling in is a very complicated project. They should usually, in order to file in the application, all figures, all schemes, and the plan, future business plan should be very clearly set out there. And the third category is special investment project. Usually we're not concentrating and we do not put a huge spotlight on special investment project. I can explain why. The first two categories of project are focused on potential investment project, potential investors. As to the special investment project, it's targeted at, not targeted, it was created for the existing special categories of legal entities. For example, this special investment project, it's a project developed by a member of special economic zone or owner of free custom zone stock, and a legal entity which has an agreement with the Kazakhstani government on industrial assembly of motor vehicles. There are only few ones. So that's what, and also the special investment project is not under our responsibility. It's under the responsibility for another ministry. And you know, Kazakh Invest is acting as the, together with the investment committee of foreign ministry. So we're not like independent, we're a governmental agency, investment promotion governmental agency acting under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And special investment project is the project of Ministry of Industry. And what else? Next slide, I see. And as you see, it's what all data which I've given before are set out in this slide. And first of all, the investor should be a Kazakhstani legal entity, registered Kazakhstani legal entity, no branch, no rep office, no overseas entity, but Kazakhstani registered legal entity. Second one, if investor applies for investment incentives under the investment project, there are no criteria requirement for the amount of investment. But if investor is asking for the investment incentives under the investment priority project, the first requirement is investment volume, as I said, and the investment volume varies from setup of new production plants and renewal of existing production plants. Second one, the investor shouldn't have in the shareholders list any governmental or quasi-state, like quasi-governmental entity. So there shouldn't be any state shareholding in the shareholder list of this investor. Second one, when investor applies for the investment priority, for the incentive under the investment priority project, the investor should prove that no public funds, state budget funds, were used or will be used for the financing or for the guarantees. Also, the companies which are involved in public partnership agreements cannot apply for the investment priority project. And the third one, the legal entity shouldn't carry out any activity on the territory of special economic zone. So we have a very strict requirements for the investment priority project and very minimal one for the investment project. And the application, when I say application for the investment incentive is a standard one. And it's always publicly available in our legal database. Also, if anyone experiences some difficulties with downloading, with filling in, or with understanding of application, this person or entity can always contact Kazakh Invest State Support Service, and we have a hotline working service for this. And we also have very good experts for filling in and for consulting in 3 languages. And as to the special investment project, as I told before, it's only for the specific special, like so-called categories of legal entities. How to sign investment contract? You see, the investor first okay, it's not obligatory, that's not mandatory, but usually we are just always advising to consult with our experts. The investor can approach Kazakh Invest, then applies for the investment incentive to the investments committee online or offline through public service centers, and just wait for the result of state expertise. And as you see, When we say state expertise, it means that the application will be further submitted to the state agencies, Ministry of Finances, Ministry of Agriculture, and also Ministry of Economy, National Economy. And only when the Investments Committee gets the approval of all these state agencies, the application can be said is approved. So when the approval is obtained, the Investments Committee should prepare investment contract and register this. And usually the investment contract is also model one, like a standard. It's just a sample, not sample, like a template. Only the closest to investment incentives is different, but it's all, any investor here has the same investment contract with the same conditions. And thereafter, the investor is handed in the investment contract back. And what else? Usually it takes nearly, I think nearly 1.5 months or even more. It depends on the state expertise. And I'm just happy to listen, to hear every day that investors are very grateful, and they are writing to us their thanks for filling in the application form and for the consulting. And that's all as to the process. I'm ready and delighted just to help to understand the process again, to answer to all your questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Alida. So now we will proceed with questions. I have a large number of questions, and I think we have a few minutes to deal with them. The first question would be well, of course, it's somewhat pandemic related. We understand that Kazakhstan will be investing large sums of money in its public health sector. So could you say a few words about that? And my own question to add, medical equipment and pharmaceuticals, or is there some interest in that?
Okay. So,
any three of you can try to answer that as you like it. So the public health and sort of pharmaceutical and medical medical equipment sectors.
And so I've told already that Kazakhstan, like any other country, prioritize sectors, business sectors and industries for investing. And I definitely know that pharmaceutical, chemical industry, medical services, medical equipment, they emit the prioritized business sectors. I'm quite sure, and this priority business sectors list is available also in English, but it's not updated. So whenever you need, we can show it this.
Okay, so we had a question actually from a few people on that account, so
yeah,
we can follow up with you as necessary. Yes, please.
Can I add to this? Yeah, well, definitely we have several projects in these industries. And as Alida mentioned, these industries are one of the priority industries defined by the government. And we have potential projects for that. And as far as trade and supplies, yes, surely when the pandemics just struck everyone, barely one was very much ready. That includes United States and China. United States realized that many face masks are made in China, and then there was shortage. And China was, first weeks they were not able to get the sufficient number of masks. And in Kazakhstan, yes, we during the first preliminary period we have suffered insufficiency, but now it's okay. And the second part of the question is regarding the projects. Yes, we can definitely provide projects in these sectors. Okay. And please contact us. Anna will just we will just share our contacts afterwards.
Just looking through the questions right now. We have a series of questions. We will provide you the questions in writing, because I think there's some very detailed questions with respect to the healthcare development. One question was in general terms from our colleague in Washington, Mr. Miller. what is Kazakhstan doing to make certain that the Belt and Road Initiative are focused on improving Kazakhstan logistics and infrastructure rather than serving China's advantage? So
yeah, in Kazakhstan, we do believe in mutual advantage, and we cooperate with every country in the world according to the mutually beneficial principle, and that includes, of course, our neighboring countries such as China. And of course, we understand that we are only the part of the large infrastructure project, land infrastructure and sea infrastructure. And in this regard, we are firstly, we're taking advantage of the natural volume of transit traffic going from Asia to Europe and backwards. And certainly, specifically, we can name infrastructure projects and infrastructure facilities such as Horgoz, such as two seaports in Caspian region, and other hard infrastructure that Kazakhstan is benefiting from, as well as the tax inflow and the growth of the international trade. So I think here we are neutral. I think that it benefits everyone, and mostly the countries along the new Silk Road. Thank you.
Okay, a quick question. There was an investment conference planned for this year. When is going to be the, you know, when your next international investment conference will be?
We would be love to hold it as soon as possible. Yeah, Kazakhstan has introduced an early lockdown, and now we are out of this process. And I would say that we will organize the events like our Kazakhstan investment roundtable that we hold every year in May or in June or in July. And this is a huge event, and it was planned for this year, and just as any other international events, it was postponed. And hopefully we have optimistic plans for the second part of the year, unless the second wave of the coronavirus will be hard. So hopefully we will plan it as soon as possible, and we will definitely keep you informed.
Yes, thank
you
very much.
Just to add what just Zhandos mentioned, we also have a number of meetings and webinar sessions via collaboration with different parties. And we are welcome. We will be glad to see you and to hear you at these events. So you are welcome. Okay,
I'm just sorting out the questions. We did not mention the defense sector. Is there something in terms of the foreign investment? Is there some defense-related possibilities?
When you said defense, you mean protection of investors' interests?
No. I mean military supplies, for instance.
Military supplies. In so far as I remember, any and all so-called defense-related activities, they're carried out by Ministry of Defense. And usually I met only twice investors who were interested in this area, in some digital area for the defense activities. And we just, insofar as I remember, we organized the interaction process, the negotiations for them, but we are not much that in this area, because we are mostly concentrated and huge spotlight on the processing industry. But whenever you need help, we can help you. Just interact with Ministry of Defense and they can ask everything.
You may already have covered this, but I have a question here, which is from Mr. Sessa. Well, congratulations for the webinar. Main national and regional incentives and subsidies Kazakhstan is providing to foreign investors in cereals and meat processing subsectors.
Pardon, once again?
The incentives and subsidies Kazakhstan would be providing to foreign investors in the cereals and meat processing subsectors.
Yes, of course, and you mean the meat industry
Yes.
is under the priority sectors, and of course, and you know what? It's my service supported matter is my department. We have also project department, and the project department we have a special dedicated group for meat industry and agriculture. And meat and agriculture is always under the priority sector. And also the meat industry is provided not only with the investment incentive, but with the special support tools from the Ministry of Agriculture. And they're very extensive ones. And our project manager will help the organize to get the incentives from both from the Ministry of Agriculture if the investor is interested in this area. And yes, of course, the meat industry is very welcome and is always under the priority sector.
May I add to this?
Yes,
we
please.
have multiple projects and investment proposals in these sectors, the meat sectors. I would name pork, I would name poultry, I would name beef. As you can observe the news feed, there are many companies entering these sectors, including the multinational companies. And we have many potential projects that we could share with you in deep processing of cereal, in deep processing of oil seeds, and in meat processing industry. I would just like to share the my contacts that you can contact me at once more. And please contact me regarding the opportunities and projects, and we will provide feedback and hopefully share essential information with you. And
Okay.
of course, many projects are available, projects that require investments, and some of the most available projects are available on our website. It's invest.gov.kz, so please enter, you can download it right away. But anyways, we will provide it for you upon your request.
Okay, a few more questions here from Lithuania, from Mantas. Can a foreign investor be the 100% owner of agricultural land in Kazakhstan? And would you care to elaborate on land ownership, please?
And I can answer this question. You know what? No, it's prohibited. I mean, land ownership by foreign investors is prohibited under the laws of Kazakhstan. And also we have, okay, it will be eased further next year, but the moratorium on foreign ownership of land is effective till the 31 of December 2021. So it's total ban and moratorium on foreign ownership of land in Kazakhstan. But thereafter, the situation will be changed.
Yeah.
And sorry, go ahead.
No, because of course, if the ownership is not possible, long-term leases, are they possible?
Long-term lease will be possible. Long-term lease will be possible, but not currently. But you know what? We have other ways just to get it. It's available under the special economic zone. It can be available under the investment contract, but not but without these instruments, without these two ways, without any contract, without a special economic zone, just to go and come and take the land, it will be quite complicated.
May I add to this from the practical way?
Yes,
usually, as you see, many international companies are operating in Kazakhstan. I've shown you the list on my slide, and many more out there. Usually, they don't want to own the land. They can 100% own the processing factory, the facility, the means of production, but the land is often not so attractive for foreign investors, and we can see the local farmers owning the land and building a successful cooperation with the foreign investors, supplying the raw materials to the processing facilities, and that is why I think there are many ways that other companies operate, and you can contact us. We can figure out the most efficient way.
Okay, thank you very much. That's useful. I have another question here, which is I'm sure you can answer. A company registered under the company, in a foreign country, but is publicly owned in part or fully by the government. Can that company invest in Kazakhstan? That is a publicly owned foreign company. Can it apply for investment in Kazakhstan?
As I said before, the applicant for the investment incentives can be a registered legal entity, and no matter who are the shareholders, I mean foreign ones or local ones, it doesn't matter. But the requirement as to the state shareholding. So if the state, I mean government of Kazakhstan, state or quasi-state legal entity holds some shares in this company which is applicant, and the size of the shareholding is more than 26%, is prohibited. I can explain why. Because the investor is asking for the investment incentive, like for example tax incentives, so the government cannot fund and cannot support itself. That's why we're not allowing companies which is held by the government, not for 100%, but for more than 26% to apply for the investment contract.
Yeah, and
okay.
we in our
Is it clear?
In our legislation, we don't have such a term as foreign investor. We have the term that the legal entity that conducts the investment activities. And
yes.
If you're a registered legal entity of Kazakhstan, foreign owned or locally owned, you can definitely apply for the incentives.
Okay, but if you are a foreign entity investing in Kazakhstan, but you happen to be publicly owned by the government of your country of origin.
What do you mean publicly funded by the origin? I just didn't get it.
No. The idea is that, for instance, let's take the example in Canada, for instance, we have Hydro-Québec, which is a large hydropower corporation. It's publicly owned by the Quebec government. Mm-hmm. Could it invest in Kazakhstan, for instance?
Of course. Yes, and we would be just delighted to see such big Canadian company here. But first this Canadian company should create a small Kazakhstani limited liability partnership. LLP is the most popular form of legal entity here. So if it's Kazakhstani legal partnership owned by this big Canadian agribusiness company, it will be welcomed everywhere. Of course, it can invest. Yeah, but through the Kazakhstani legal registered companies, so-called data company in Kazakhstan.
We now have 10 minutes left for questions and answers. I have a few more questions. We will not be able to go through everything, but we'll make sure that those questions that are not answered, during the webinar are made available to you. Now, a quick question about satellite and aviation industry. We'd like to say a few words about that, because we have, of course, in Canada, a great deal of interest in especially aviation industry.
Aviation industry is one of the priority sector as the machinery industry, and we have several ongoing projects in this industry, and we have also potential projects for this industry. But surely, when considering implementation of projects in Kazakhstan, you have to study the market, and we do have such market studies, and we have actually the companies from I would say such countries as the United States, UK, and Canada that are trying to implement projects in Kazakhstan currently. And the main thing here is the market condition. You just have to know your customer. You just have to know the market. And Kazakhstan has investment treaties with other countries in the region, as we've mentioned before, Eurasian Economic Union, and we've mentioned before bilateral treaties with other countries, the potential market. But here, the market is the key. These industries are a priority, and the government is entitled to provide special attention to the large strategic projects. And many projects from this industry are such ones.
Okay, very good. Another question, very quick. What about the education sector? Or higher education sector, I would say.
Yeah, if I may answer.
Yes, by all means.
With regard to education, yeah, education sector, it's quite popular for us, and it's very important for us. We have a great deep in education sector, and we already have some programs which are looking for investments. So in this regard, we would be glad to know your investment opportunities in this. So we will be glad to provide you with investment opportunities in this field, because we do have the shortage of schools. We do have a shortage in dormitories, and now we have a program which is initiated in collaboration with Ministry of Education, and we would like to make these projects in near future. So we will be glad to provide more information on it.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, as I said, they're very specific questions. We have a specific question from all people from the Embassy of Canada in Kazakhstan. They're asking a question about the project that was proposed last year between Kazakh Invest and Tyson Meat Plant. Is that project on? Is that the project that was affected by the COVID-19 situation?
Yeah, I think you're talking about the projects of Tyson Foods.
Yes, indeed.
For construction of meat processing plant. Yeah, I think according to our information, this project is on, and it was supported by Kazakh Invest from the early stages, from the initiative stage and all the way to the organization of the visits to Kazakhstan. We were deeply engaged in this process, and last year in December, with the participation of the Prime Minister, the investment document was signed, and during all these times we have worked on these documents and all the legal issues regarding this project. And yeah, you just have to follow the official information. Surely the lockdown has affected the economy, and as you know, as you monitor the news from North America, it does affect the factories, meat processing plants, and it does affect business. However, if we talk about this particular project, this project is on, to be short.
Okay, very specific. Two more questions, and then you get le mot de la fin. And a project right now in biotechnology. There's an interest.
You know.
What exactly? Yeah.
Pharmaceuticals, but yes. Beyond that, biotechnology.
Okay, biotechnology, what do you mean specifically in this regard? Is it machinery or in what field?
I'm not sure the question. Sunita has put the question. I'm just replicating the question, but that would be not only pharmaceuticals, but pharmaceutical preparations, for instance, or biotechnological expertise, microbiology.
I can add to this. We at the current moment, if we talk about these pandemics, we have received the requests on production of equipment, supplies, and the drugs for tests for COVID-19, and we have within 1 month we have worked out the potential projects in this industry. And often if we don't have a specific potential project just to show you, like on the slide and the business plan, etc., we in many cases we have companies approach us in order to help develop project in order to help in coordination with the local executive bodies, with the central government bodies. And we help a lot. And we structure the project, we structure financing, and this goes both ways. Either we initiate it or we work on the applications that comes from the company. So if you have idea or potential project, or you would like to study a particular sector in Kazakhstan and in the region, we can provide information for this, and we can provide support for any project.
In this regard, yes, I would also add, if with regard to healthcare and pharmaceutical industry, it's also a great importance for Kazakhstan, and we actually also have a shortage in the hospitals, and some programs is going to be initiated in the near future, and we'll be ready to include in our pipeline of projects some incentives and some opportunities in this regard. So we do have people who are specifically involved in this issue. That is why we will be glad to know your proposition or suggestions, and we will be glad to provide you with more information about pharmaceutical and healthcare industries, and we will be glad to provide you with the specific projects and programs that we do have in these fields. And of course, we do have the good connections with the ministries who are in charge of these projects. That is why I suppose will be good key to enter these ministries and to initiate these projects. So thank you for your question.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I have my final question here, which has to do with there is an interest here in Canada on this issue of renewable biofuels. Well, there is Mr. John Bannock who's put a question. Is it possible to enter a joint venture, let's say, with a farmer to produce renewable biofuels?
Yes, and we will be welcome to, it's a great question. Thank you very much for that. We are currently very much involved in biofuel and waste management as well. And currently in our pipeline, we are searching for right technology. And we have a project which is in Karaganda region, which now searching for some technological solution. This project has already PPA signed for 15 years. It's the auction winner, and it's a project in biofuel, and it's based on anaerobic fermentation. So in this regard, we do have projects which are looking forward to get some proposition on technological solution, first of all. And of course, if you want to be as an equity partner, we will be glad to consider your proposition as well. Moreover, I would like to just to note that on our website, kazakhinvest.com, we do have a lot of information with regard to the renewable energy sources. We do have webinars, we do have investor guidelines, and we also have a lot of information about other specific sectors. And you have also there the contact details of the project managers who are in charge of these particular spheres. And we are always open to answer your questions. So please visit our website as well.
Okay, thank you very much. There are many other questions, but I believe you have, through your presentation, answered most of them. So I would like to remind participants that your presentation will be available, so that people may have more questions, but I think your presentations answered a lot of the questions already. So I'll give you 1 minute or two to have the final word, as we say in French, le mot de la fin, before I pass it back to Taskin. But of course, at this time, I would like also to thank you very much for a very useful and very interesting presentation. So any three of you want to have a final word? Say something that you haven't had a chance to say so far?
I would like to thank everyone for this wonderful opportunity. The most important thing that we stay in touch, that lockdown hasn't scared us. We are on, we are working, and Kazakhstan is open for everyone. And particularly Kazakh Invest can can act as the window to Kazakhstan. So please contact us, and I would like to pass my special thanks to CERBA, the wonderful organization. If you're not member yet, please consider joining.
Yes, thank you very much, Zhandos. Now I'm passing the word to the working person at CERBA in Kazakhstan. Taskin, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Gilles. Thank you very much for your moderation, and thank you very much, speakers. I think it was a very informative webinar, lots of information. And as we said at the beginning, yes, we will definitely share. We'll send out follow-up email with presentations, with all contact details of speakers, so you will have it. And once again, a few words about CERBA. So we are, as I said, we're a non-for-profit organization. We have in membership more than 140 members. So if you are interested with our activities, please join us. We'll be welcome to serve you, as we serve and assist our members with government relations, with business development, with logistics, and many other issues. And mostly we work to promote trade and bilateral relations between Canada and Eurasia. So please join us. We have all information on our website, and will be followed as well. And you can contact me anytime. And thank you for your participation. Any questions, we'll be happy to answer. Gilles, you are
I'm muted. Well, thank you very much to all again one more time. So I think that is, as they say here, farewell to all, and see you soon in person, if possible.
Yes, very much waiting for that, looking forward. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone.